I've been with my wife for 8 years now. She has primary custody of her daughter Santana, tween. Santana sees her dad, Mark, every other weekend and some holidays. As I've been one of Santana's primary caretakers for the past 7 years, since I moved in with her mom, I've taken care of her more than Mark has, and we're quite close. My wife and I went on to have 2 children, now a kindergartner and a young toddler. I've been a stay-at-home dad since the older child was born. As a result, I make lunches, drive kids to activities, etc. That includes Santana. Mark has always felt insecure about my place in Santana's life. I've always encouraged her relationship with her dad while also being a place she can go to vent about her parents. I've never asked her to call me dad, but I've clarified that I love her the same as her siblings, and she's also said she loves me and considers me her second dad. Mark also mocks me for my stay-at-home dad role. My wife always shuts him down, and I just ignore him. He's in the past jokingly called me Santana's nanny, and I just roll my eyes and say, whatever you think, Mark. I really don't see him much, as my wife will take Santana to her dad's and pick her up. However, my wife was sick yesterday and asked me to pick up Santana. She couldn't get out of bed, and I knew Mark wouldn't drive out to us, he's refused in the past, so I went over to his place to pick her up. He was throwing a barbecue and had some family there. I'd never met any of them. Santana ran into my arms, excited to see me and shouting my name. A few people looked at Mark curiously. He laughed and said, "That's Santana's nanny." I shook my head and said, "I'm her stepfather, Greg. Nice to meet you all." Mark turned red and barely said goodbye to Santana. I didn't think much of it outside Mark just being Mark. However, Mark texted my wife later saying I humiliated him, and given I'd likely never see those people again, I shouldn't have said anything. My wife told him he was overreacting, and he then texted me saying I had no right to correct him in his own home. He asked what was the big deal if his family thought I was her nanny. Am I the idiot for correcting my stepdaughter's dad? LOL, you're so not the idiot. If you just dryly said, "I'm her stepfather, Greg, nice to meet you all," that's a great sick burn and a classy way to handle it. He was humiliated because he humiliated himself. If he has a personal stake in making his family believe you're the nanny, he's been telling lies to his family about who you are and that he's playing a lot bigger role in Santana's life than he actually is. That's not your job to get in the middle of that drama, but you don't have to let him lie about you in public to your face without correcting him. You said the right thing. There's no need to let him save face and participate in his lies. If OP hands out burns like that regularly, I hope he carries complimentary soothing cream to give to his victims. Mark has probably told everyone there at some point a nasty story about his ex and her partner. OP turns up, nice and pleasant, his daughter clearly adores OP, and I can see people putting together the puzzle and coming up with a different picture, and Mark was caught in his own BS. In his attempts to humiliate you, he humiliated himself. They call this just desserts. He's salty because it backfired on him. Clearly, he's a deeply insecure person who's likely jealous of your involvement with Santana. If Santana witnessed this, you should tell her that you love her and you love your role as her stepfather. Let her know that Mark's comments about you being the nanny upset you because you are a much more important person in her life than a nanny would be. Make sure Santana knows that you care about her and that her father's comments are hurtful. My son announced his wife's pregnancy at 8 weeks after hearing the heartbeat. Unfortunately, she had a loss around the 10th week. When my son called me on the phone, I was so shocked that I just blurted out, "Why, did she fall?" She didn't fall, by the way. I didn't realize I was on speaker during that call and my daughter-in-law overheard my reaction. When she got pregnant again, they didn't announce it until well into the 2nd trimester. Due to my daughter-in-law ending in a very unexpected C-section, my son requested my help to come over. I cooked, cleaned, did laundry for them, washed the baby, etc. Despite all my hard work, she was still very cold towards me and treated me poorly. I finally asked her why, and she admitted that she was furious when I sounded very blaming when I asked if she felt that's why her previous pregnancy ended. I told her that I asked if she felt not to blame her in any sense, but out of concern for her. I said that I'm aware that there are other reasons that loss occurs, as my immediate family members have suffered the same. I was very sad to hear the news. All of us were so happy and excited about her first pregnancy, then the next day heard the sad news. We all called to speak to her directly and see how she was, but were told she wasn't ready to speak. We tried to give her the space and time she needed for the situation. I don't think she believed me though. Am I the idiot for asking if my daughter-in-law fell? That's why she had a loss. You are the idiot. I mean, that's a pretty tone-deaf thing to say right when learning the news. You could have asked if she was okay or something. You know, like a person. Who thinks about a fall? Who thinks about a fall? Everyone who watches telenovelas, that's 99% of losses in those stories. When something like this happens, the appropriate response is to ask if she's okay and let them decide if they wish to share any more details. Opie is not entitled to know any more than what her son and daughter-in-law choose to share with her. Asking anything beyond whether they're okay is prying. Opie, you were told she lost it and your first words were, why? Here is a tip for you. When someone gives you some big news, traumatic news, something obviously huge in their lives, it's perfectly acceptable and preferable to take a small deep breath and small pause. This is where you think about what to say instead of spewing out the first thing that pops into your head. This is one of those situations where you need to tuck your tail and profusely apologize. Not because you had bad intentions, but because this situation is so painful that it just doesn't matter. Pride doesn't have a place here. Don't make excuses. Don't apologize through your son. Speak to her directly, genuinely, and lovingly. I'm sorry I said something hurtful during a terrible time in your life, and there is nothing I can do to reverse that stupid remark. Just please know I realize how insensitive it was. Update: am I the idiot for asking if my daughter-in-law fell when I heard of her loss? I now see that I was acting like the passageway of excrement. I guess I now understand why I was never invited again to their house to see my other newborn grandkids after that. They only introduced their babies when each turned over half a year old. I don't think I'll apologize regarding the full comment, since the first birth happened 7 years ago, and it's just weird if I suddenly bring up the topic now that they have a new baby again. I might be accused of pandering like my daughter-in-law has accused me of gift bombing previously. She was the one who treated me poorly over a long ago comment I didn't even know was wrong while I was working very hard to help her postpartum, so she apologized and I accepted. I was really helpful and never slacked off. I cooked, cleaned the unit. It was only 700 square feet, so not much, luckily. Did the laundry, showered and massaged the baby, etc. My son recognized how helpful I've been and let me stay for 5 weeks. I felt that my daughter-in-law took my help for granted and was disappointed she kept a grudge over something I so innocently said. She didn't even confront me sooner. She waited a full year. I was just wondering why she was very cold, only wanting to eat in her room with my son, and not very welcoming to me when I worked very hard in her apartment. My daughter-in-law eventually apologized for her cold treatment towards me. Oh wow, you stayed for 5 whole weeks right after she gave birth in a 700 square foot apartment. My current apartment is smaller, and if I were upset with my mother-in-law and she stayed for 5 weeks while I was vulnerable and postpartum, I'd never speak to her again. I can't believe she apologized to you, but you haven't apologized to her. You still haven't apologized to her for hurting her feelings to the point that she spent an entire year hurting over it. Why are you here if you aren't interested in actually hearing your judgment? You still don't get it. It's still her fault in your mind. You are the victim in your mind. The issue here isn't her actions to you, it's your refusal to see the pain you caused her. I, 23 male, have been with my current company for a year now. Recently, a new guy, Jack, joined our team fresh out of college. Last Friday, my manager invited everyone to a bar after work. There, Jack told everyone about an achievement that he obtained over spring break. He visited his 150th country, Cambodia. In contrast to everyone else who was asking things such as, what was the best or worst or strangest thing you ate, which countries were your favourite, and any cool stories, I just said, good for you, and went back to my drink. Jack noticed me being quiet and asked me why I wasn't joining in. I said, don't worry about me, but Jack kept pressing the issue. I finally said, Jack, visiting 150 countries is cool and all, but it doesn't say anything about you as a person. It just means you had rich parents who could afford to travel internationally several times a year. I grew up poor, literally, worked my butt off in high school, got a full-ride merit scholarship, and did everything humanly possible to land my current 6-figure job. Rich people who think they're better than everyone just because they had rich parents are a huge pet peeve of mine, but my co-workers don't know any of that since I like to keep work and my personal life separate. Jack got really quiet after that and left soon afterward. Now it's morning, and I wonder if I should have kept my mouth shut. You are the idiot. So? Visiting 150 countries is really cool. There was no need to crap all over it and make a stink. Travelling to 150 countries is not insignificant, and means that your colleague likely went to places that were not luxurious. People who travel like Jack are likely curious about the world and other cultures, and that's nothing to slight. It does say something about him as a person. He never said he was better than anyone else, you just assume that because of your own insecurities. Yeah, but your jealousy got the best of you in this situation. You worked hard, no one can or will ever take that away from you, but you do need to come to a place of resolution that people who grew up even moderately wealthy can also work hard too. Remember, it's better to have fake friends than real enemies at work. This 1000% this. My lord, it goes far. I think that while you can have your own thoughts on something, it's best to keep them private and even lie about it when it involves work relationships unless it gets into really bad behavior territory. Eventually, Jack will tell someone at work what happened and it will spread. If Jack seemed like an okay guy, OP is just going to look like a little old sourpuss, and you know people are going to add jealousy to that description. This is the main life lesson. While me and my husband are childless and don't want any kids of our own, we love to spend time with our nieces and nephews. This includes my brother's tween son, Alan, young grammar school daughter Ava, and my sister's tween daughter, Kelly. Last spring, we planned a weekend trip with the kids to a beach town about an hour away. We did this to spend time with them and confirm if they'd be ready for longer overnight trips, and we'd also be within driving distance of home if any of them needed to go home early. My husband and I expected that Ava may have had difficulty being away from her parents overnight since she was young, but both she and Alan were well behaved the whole trip. However, Kelly misbehaved for the entire beach trip. Friday, pick up from their parents' houses around 5 and got to the beach town by 7. During the car ride, Kelly was being an instigator and kept trying to start a fight with Alan. Kelly wasn't listening at the grocery store and refused to take turns with Alan and Ava with the TV. Saturday, Kelly threw a fit because she wanted ice cream, and we told her we wouldn't go to the ice cream store until later. We told her she could have fruit for a snack if she was hungry, and Kelly threw some of the fruit in the trash before my husband stopped her. At the beach, Kelly kept refilling the hole Ava was trying to dig with sand despite being told multiple times to stop. Kelly kept trying to start fights with her cousins. During dinner, Kelly was rude to our waitress and was sarcastic the first time we told her to apologize. Sunday, at the gift store, Kelly wanted a conch shell and a mermaid doll but didn't have enough pocket money to get both. When we told Kelly she would need to pick one and couldn't have both, she wasn't allowed either because she kept throwing a fit. At the hotel, Kelly wasn't listening and kept trying to watch TV despite being told multiple times to help with packing suitcases. During the car ride home, Kelly was again being an instigator and kept trying to start fights with Alan and Ava. My husband and I told my sister that Kelly wasn't coming on any more overnight trips with us because of her behavior. My sister is angry now because we haven't changed our minds and are staying true to our word by only bringing Alan and Ava to our week-long trip. My sister told me that Kelly was just acting like a kid and she's only a tween. I agreed with my sister that exactly Kelly is a tween. There's a reason we waited until the kids got to their current ages. She's too old to misbehave and throw fits like a 4-year-old. She says Alan and Ava may be mature and calm for their ages, but I'm out of line to punish Kelly for not being the exception to her age, and she hopes me and my husband feel good about ourselves after excluding a child. Is my sister right that we're the idiots? You are 100% not the idiot. You are Aunt and Uncle of the Year, OMG. Not to mention losing a week of free babysitting. Don't worry about your sister either. She's just upset that you're a better parent to her child by sticking to your word than she's capable of being. Kelly's not the only one who needs to learn actions have consequences. Exactly, sister was probably already planning a child-free week vacation. They raised a brat. Now they have to deal with the consequences of that. I guess she throws many tantrums at home and they placate her by giving her whatever she wants. Also, being an only child likely hasn't helped. Sorry to burst the bubble, not all only children behave like that. Entitled and mannerless children behave like that. My cousin is the only child of his parents. He's 8 years old and he behaves way more maturely and responsible than this Kelly. Being an only child does not give you the green flag to misbehave. It's all part and parcel of the upbringing. We're on vacation with my husband's family. We got here Sunday afternoon and I was hungry. I made food for myself and my son. My husband said to wait for his family so we could all have dinner together or maybe even go out. It was around 4 o'clock and he said we'd eat at 7. I said I was hungry and my son and I ate. After that, the three of us sat by the pool. His family arrived around 6 and everyone was hungry and wanted to go out to eat. I don't know if it was the travelling, but I was exhausted, so I said I was too tired and would go to bed early. My son stayed home with me because he wasn't hungry and wanted to stay. I woke up early this morning, made tea, and sat by the pool while my son played. When my sister-in-law woke up, she came out to the pool and told me off for eating early, not going to dinner and being so standoffish. She said everyone wanted to see me and my son, and I was being such a witch. I said I was tired from travelling. She said if I forced myself to stay awake, I'd be on the same schedule as everyone else. But since I went to bed early and woke up early, I was going to have the same excuse tonight. She also told me off for not making breakfast when I was the first to wake up, but I didn't know when everyone was going to wake up, and no one wanted a cold breakfast. She just rolled her eyes and walked away. I feel like everyone's been standoffish with me all morning, and I'm wondering if I should apologise. Was I an idiot? Not the idiot. When your body is sending hunger signals, you should eat. Waiting 3 hours to do so is ridiculous and unhealthy, and your child's bedtime would have likely occurred when they were out for dinner, so pretty inconsiderate of them not to include that as a factor when choosing a dinner time. And, these people are adults. Can they not get themselves breakfast? LOL. Right, it sounds like sister-in-law was jealous that Opie decided to listen to her body and get rest after travelling, instead of people-pleasing and forcing herself to be hungry and tired. And expecting breakfast is beyond insane. Opie isn't a maid, she's on vacation too. I disagree. Opie's the idiot because she was passive-aggressive in her behaviour. Yes, I'll buy that the kid was hungry and tired, and she was. However, a snack at 4 p.m. won't ruin a 7 p.m. dinner, and a quick nap would have freshened both up to go enjoy the evening meal with family. Opie chose instead to eat a full meal with her kid and noped out of a group dinner she was aware of in advance, not as an oops, but because, in my opinion, Opie never wanted to go on vacation in a group to begin with. Opie didn't want to join us for dinner and blew everyone off and went to bed. That's just rude.